Hello, this is Mikey. Welcome to another After Effects tutorial. Today we're going to be creating this Lego look, and what makes this different than some of the other ones you may have seen, because other people have shared some ways of doing this, is we have an option to, just with a mask or with shape layers, to kind of go in and make the blocks connect. And so I want to show you how to do that and how to create this cool look. What is also neat about this is it's all dynamically linked. It's updatable. I can come in here. There's just a shot of me playing the guitar, and I can come in and change it to something else, and it automatically updates. What won't update, though, is where you have these connected blocks. You can see that it does some weird stuff, but that's okay. Just make sure you have the right picture before you start. Okay, so let's start over with a brand new composition. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this footage layer, drop it into a new composition right here. And then what we have is, this is where we're starting. So this is split up into three parts. You have the base layer, you have the circle layers on top, and then you have the middle layer where you add all the connection to make it so you have more than just one by one bricks. Let's just rename this base layer. And what we're going to add to this is a couple of effects. So first, the posterize effect, and let's add that to say level 10. This will just kind of make some of the colors more limited. So you can see here is as I go through this, if I bring it all the way down, you know, it changes how many colors it's using, right? So actually, maybe, yeah, let's have that at 5. Let's limit the colors a lot. Then after this, we're going to go to Mosaic. And Mosaic, how it works is a little weird. It has the horizontal blocks and vertical blocks. And so you need to know the aspect ratio of your composition. So this is 16 by 9. So if I go in here, 16 by 9, then it makes it perfectly square, right? So other than that, it's not going to be square because it divides it evenly. So if I don't have the right numbers, then it's not going to be square. But let's say 32 by 18, and we can have a bigger ones, or if we want to do 64 by 36, then there's smaller bricks. Let's do 32 by 18. And then we just need to make sure that we use that on all of them. So then the next thing we're going to add to this is the grid. Generate grid. And here is yet another effect that works really weird. So all of these effects weren't meant to be used together. And so it's kind of hard to make them to work. So what I'm going to do with this is let's change this to black. Blending mode to just normal. And then we have to make this work. So one way to do it is to kind of eyeball it. And what we have here is we have this center and then the anchor point, corner point. And that's just right here. And you can kind of move it and kind of get it in the right spot, but it's kind of hard to make it work exactly. Another way we can do this is change this to width and height sliders. And then what we need to do is this is how many pixels, but it's not the same as the 32 number we used before. So we need to do 1920, and we divide that by 32, and that's 60. So then we do 60 on both of them, and then should line up just perfectly. Now, as far as the border, let's leave it on 5 there. Now, we're going to take this, and we're going to duplicate this, and we're going to make some changes to it. So the base, that's set to go. Not much more we need to do that. So then we duplicate that, and we call this circles. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take off that grid, and we're going to add to this CC ball action. This is yet another one that works really weird. And I think if I remember correctly, I had to do some trial and error, and I can't even figure out why it does this, but it needs to be 29. That looks about right. Yeah, 29. And let's turn off that bottom layer. And then we bring the size down till it looks about right. Let's do 29 again, just for good measure. And then instead of using the shading here, maybe we can do a little bit of the highlight. But I want to add to this some layer styles. So layer styles, there's some cool stuff you can do here. And the ones I like are going to be drop shadow and bevel and emboss. So bevel and emboss automatically kind of makes it look like a button. And we come down here and let's see, we have different options, right? And I think just the basic emboss is the one I like. And let's turn that to this chisel hard, looks pretty good. Increase the depth and then bring the size. Change the altitude. You can play with some of these colors and things like that. So there we go for that. And then the next one I want to add is going to be the drop shadow. So layer effect, layer styles, go down to drop shadow. And what I'm going to use this for is to kind of just shade the bottom color. Go into drop shadow, change the distance to 0, and then the size, we're going to increase that rather large, and we can bring the opacity down. I just want a little bit of difference in the color. And this is looking pretty good. I'm actually thinking maybe these circles are a little bit large, so we can change it's the ball size in CC ball action. All right. I'm liking the look of that. And this is the basic setup for just any kind of 1x1 Lego look. And there's some different options. I know Workbench, Joe over at Workbench has a good tutorial with this. I've seen some other ones as well. They all use slightly different techniques and different shading options and things like that. That's really not the important part. The important part is how to make it so you can connect them all together and have more than just a 1x1 look. And so with that, let's take this base layer again, and we're going to duplicate that. I'm going to show you two different ways of doing this. So connect layer. Let's just bring this open so this is all we see. And we're going to take off that grid. And then what we can do here is if I come in and I'm going to just make a mask. And you can see what's happening is when I make a mask around I just did it around there. Actually, let's turn on you want the mask to kind of go around those dots, right? And what's happening is if we just look at this one layer, you can see it is kind of transparent. And so what I want to do to this is I want to crush the alpha channel so that the transparency goes away. So we're going to add a levels effect to this. Levels effect is one of my favorites because I use it all the time because it's you never know when you need it, right? So I'm going to go to the alpha channel, and then I'm going to I can just take this the alpha input white. You can see as I'm dragging this over, it's this alpha input white is changing, right? And I'm going to just save that to 1. And then if we can see what's happening is it is now covering up that middle line. Now it's a little bit wide, right? It goes around to the edges. So to this, let's add a minimax. Change this to minimum, and from color to alpha and color, put in 1. And you can see it brings it in. Let's put in 2. And the only issue we have though is now it's kind of offset. It's kind of in the right spot, but it's not 100% where it needs to be, right? You can see a little bit of it creeping out over here, and it's a little bit too high. So from there, we're going to use another effect. If we go into the distort menu, there's transform. And we're going to do this before the Minimax. And it just needs to be offset by like a half a pixel. So for this first one, the anchor point, let's go 959.5 by 539.5. And you can see that it lined everything up just perfectly where it's supposed to be. Once you have that set up, that layer stack, posterize, mosaic, levels, transform, Minimax, then you can add to this basically anywhere just another mask. And it'll automatically connect it. Now I want to add one more thing to this. And I'm going to show you where. Right here you see how these colors are slightly different. If we add a mask over those two, then you can kind of see there's a line separating them. So if we add to this effect, let's go to blur and sharpen, and we go down to smart blur. Smart blur is a kind of like a vector blur. I don't even know how it works, but I'm going to set this radius to 10, threshold to 30, and you can see it kind of blurs that line a little bit. And it also respects the edges. So it's not going to go over the edges. But I found about 10 and 30 works pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. We can come in. Let's add some more. Now with this technique, there is an issue. And I'm going to show you how to get around that. The issue is if I want to have two next to each other, where the sides are touching, that line across doesn't work, right? If it's at a corner though, then it is going to work. So and if you want to get around that, then what you do is you just duplicate that layer. I'm going to take all these masks off. And let's add that mask back. So now you have two. And the difference is that one's on one layer, one's on the other layer. They can hit corners, they just can't hit the sides. And so if you want to have things touching, then it's good to have two different layers like that. Now I want to show you one other way of doing this, which is just to create shape layers. So let's make sure nothing is connected. And shape layers kind of have the benefit is you can pick your color. And using this other connected layer where I had that layer stack, it takes the color that's there and just kind of smooths it out. But if I'm doing a shape layer, then I can pick what color. So if I want to like change, you know, the color of my hair or something, right? So let's say I want blue hair. I'm going to pick that color. And first I'm going to make a shape. That's not a normal Lego shape, but I'm going to do that anyways. Let's bring it down. And then let's go into this layer stack. And we don't need all of these. We don't need posterize. We need mosaic, levels, transform, and Minimax. We don't need smart blur either. I'm going to copy those, paste it onto that shape layer, and then it does that. Another thing we probably want to do as well is this circle layer. See how those are the wrong colors now? So if we add to this a CC composite, and on top of this, I want to add that shape layer. And then what that does is you can see it's going to composite that color onto the existing dots. So if I do add any shapes in here, it's going to composite it on. This is going to have the same issue though, where if they're touching, it's not going to work. So if you do want to have multiple colors, then you're going to want to change that as well. But all in all, this is just a kind of a cool effect. You can create some big long lines. Then I'm going to go to this other one and let's do a big. All right, so there you are. Let's make some Legos or some generic bricks toys. It's really kind of a cool technique, and the key to making this work again is on this connection layer, where we're adding the mosaic to make sure that it's the right size, adding the levels to make sure there's no alpha channel, and then adding some different transforms and blurs and minimaxes to make it fit within that stroke shape. I hope you learned a lot. Love to see what you come up with this, and till next time, see ya.